Everybody, happy Monday. We're sitting here actually in a new development, waiting on some clients to get here that typed in the address and it took them to a different spot. That's kind of some of the negative things about buying a new construction is your address is very hard to find sometimes. And for a long period of time, I know it was for us when we moved in our house, like we couldn't get pizza delivered for a long time. So in this video, I want to talk about the best deal I've ever made in real estate. I basically made zero money in my bank account, but on paper, what I put in the title is, yes, it is true. On paper, when you look at it, we almost made the $400,000 on paper. I don't know what happened there, but there's a lot difference when you're in real estate, when money is, hey, you're making it part of a deal or on paper versus in your bank account. That money is far from my bank account, probably will never be in my bank account, but on paper it was a great deal. I actually didn't, I don't know, part of me maybe thought it was going to be a little better, and then maybe part of it made me think that it was going to be a little worse, but I kind of did my worst case scenario, and it just felt like a win-win-win, even on a worst case scenario for us. So, we found a house in West Knoxville, only really about a 2 miles, a mile from where we live currently. So a great location, especially for real estate, to get to and from all these locations. So it's very important for me, real estate wise, to live in a good location, because I don't want to be too far out. It makes my drives too far, makes me cover less areas. So we found a house. It was an old farmhouse that was coming with 8.02 acres. So it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, detached garage. It was move-in ready, good home, and it was listed for $600,000. And we had went and looked at it, but just needed a little bit. I don't want to say too much work. It's moving ready, but just needed some work, and I'm really not in the business of wanting to do work to houses. I just want no part of dealing with the hassle of contractors and handyman that much, and making sure people there doing the right thing and make sure they don't cut corners and all that. So, we really liked it, but it was just too much for us. Well, they took it off the market, ended up actually doing a deal with the agent, on a separate one. It was a separate deal, but with the agent who had that one, and I noticed it was temporary off market. And this is kind of in the boom, right? We closed on this one October of 2021. Yeah, right? No, October 2022. Yeah, October 2022 is when we closed. Geez, time flies. So a year ago, over a year ago. And, interest rates were kind of going up, so it's kind of scary. But as well as, the business was doing well in real estate. And so I just asked her, I was like, hey, what's the deal with that house? Because I'd asked them if they wanted to subdivide it. We didn't want the house, but we really wanted the land. They weren't willing to do that. So I talked to them a little bit more, and she's like, well, they're doing some work to it, right? They're doing some new windows, some new siding on it. And I was like, well, great, and they're gonna retake it active for the same price, $600,000. Well, we looked at it again. I was like, man, I really like this. I think this land value, because we were looking for land to build on eventually for our forever home. And so I just asked her, listen, with those updates, price is still going to stay the same. So we basically had an agreement, $600,000. We'll purchase it. And I was like, awesome. This is good. And so my plan was to actually subdivide it. We would basically refinance the home, and subdivide it with its own acre. And then there's a little part of the land that we eventually closed and sold, ended up being 1.74 acres that we surveyed off. And the plan was basically by the time we refinance the house, turn it into a rental property, sell that, it really should kind of be paid for itself. And then, we're left, with, a lot of acreage. I think 5.69, yeah, is what we're left with. That is kind of essentially paid off a part of the deal. Right now, obviously it costs us money. You had down payment in the deal. So I got some numbers here that I want to talk about and how it kind of broke down. So I ended up actually taking the purchase price up to $610,000. The reason I did that is because I got $10,000 in seller credits to pay for the closing costs. I try to do that in every deal possible when I'm buying real estate. Is I'll increase the purchase price to get money back to pay for closing costs. I think that's super smart. I would encourage anyone to do that. I think money back in my pocket towards closing costs is way more important than what the actual purchase price is. But at the end of the day, I see people make, opposite decision, and it's just a preference, right? So to do the deal at $610,000, it required $122,000 down. When doing commercial investment properties, you basically got to have 20% down. So $122,000 is what we put down. We ended up doing a full survey. The property actually ended up being 8.48 acres. So we actually got almost a half acre extra when we did the survey. Getting in the survey, did a video on title insurance the other day. Getting the survey, that's important. So we took that and made it into 3 different parcels. One with the house, and then one with a part of the land that really wasn't going to be usable to us. Ended up being the 1.74 acres, and we ended up selling it. Now, I thought this acreage was going to sell a lot quicker and for a lot more money than it did. We ended up selling that one 1.74 acres for $155,000. So that comes out to about $90,000 an acre is what that prorates to. So about $90,000 an acre is what that did. When we refinanced the house, we refinanced that for $330,000. Basically a house on the 1.05 acres. So by the time you take the house off of the mortgage, sold the 1.74 acres for $155, take it off, we were left with essentially 5.69 acres that we just owed a couple $1,000 on. So we're able to pay that off. So now we don't have a mortgage on that one. And when you actually break down the numbers, because of the home sale, right, the refinance of the home, when you take a look at the land that we sold, the 1.74 acres, which is actually really not even the best part of the property. So in my eyes, the value go up, but I'm just going to use the same numbers. So if 1.74 acres sold for $90,000 an acre, that's a great comp. That's a great comp because it's the same land. So that means the 5.69 acres will be times by 90,000, which would give you somewhere around $515,000 just for the acres that we technically now own outright. Now, obviously, in the initial purchase, I put down about $125,000. So that leaves us with about $390,000 on paper. Now we had extra costs, right? I think the survey was like $8,000. There's a lot of cost that I did not know about, and a lot of time consuming stuff of actually going through the process of getting it subdivided, getting it the county approvals and all that stuff. That was, cost a couple $1,000 as well. And then you actually had the carrying cost of the loan, right? So we did an interest-only loan on that one because it allowed us to parcel it off and get rid of parcels and stuff. It just made the most sense to do that loan. However, every month that we had that, and we just closed this a couple months ago, every month that we had that was just interest that we were just paying back to the bank. So really, I think our time we were all in, initial down payment of like $122,000. We were probably in this about, $160,000 to own $515,000 of what would be real estate. So on paper, and again, that's my on paper value, right? That's not money in the pocket. That's just on paper what we've kind of made in this. Now our plan, and this is kind of spinning off where I have this conversation, a lot of people think about buying land. Now that we have the land, we own it outright, we basically paid it off. We will use the land value for collateral for the down payment to start our construction loan. So that way we're not bringing money to the table for the construction loan. We'll be able to refinance the land basically into that, provide it, and that will basically be the full down payment for what we need to do for a construction loan. That's what I encourage people to do. It's so much easier to pay the land outright or do it all in one deal. If you can buy the land with a construction loan all in the same deal, that's very good versus trying to do a land loan and then also come on top of that, try to eventually do a construction loan on top of that. It kills your debt to income. There's a lot of charges and stuff like that that goes into this. I usually tell people, if you have a home now, right, refinance the home, pull your equity out, pay the land off, and then when you're ready, you know, you can be ready to go for the construction loan there. But I see a lot of people do the cart before the horse when it comes to land loans. I would say 90% of the people that talk to me about construction, building, buying land, anything like that, do the cart before the horse. It's just super common to think that they can do this, but the terms are just different. It really hurts your debt to income. So when you can own the land outright and then use it as collateral for the down payment, that's why you don't need to actually have the down payment down the road. So if you have questions about this stuff, you know, always let me know. I like kind of sharing, you know, anything to do with real estate with people, as there's money to be made. Again, I didn't make per se money in my bank account. I didn't make this money. But you know, it's a part of a real estate deal that, otherwise, if we was to buy this property today, you know, would cost us about that much. Somebody was selling it. So, I think looking into houses with land, even if the house doesn't, because we were even considering moving into this, selling our house, moving into this house while we do the construction loan. We ended up not doing that, but it was even we considered it. So when looking for land, maybe don't just look for raw land. Look for a house that's got land. Maybe you can live in the house while you're building a forever home, to give you some different options, because land is very hard to find, good land especially. If you have questions on anything, guys, real estate wise, always feel free to holler at me. But yeah, somebody asked me this the other day, you know, what's the best deal? And I really hadn't ever thought, actually put pen to paper what I did here to look at the numbers and see how much that we technically, you know, again, on paper made. But I thought that was pretty interesting, because there are deals out there that's like this. So if you have questions, feel free to holler.